The last species that made humanity angry? They no longer exist. Part 1. First contact gone wrong. The year was 2347. Humanity had spread across the stars like seeds carried by the wind. They had built colonies on 43 worlds. They had made friends with 17 different alien species. They traded goods. They shared knowledge. They laughed together at festivals that mixed human music with alien songs. Commander Daniel Harris stood on the bridge of his ship, the USS Sentinel. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes. He had served in the fleet for 30 years, but he had never fired a weapon in anger. He was proud of that fact. He believed that words were stronger than guns. How long until we reach Vraxith space? He asked. Lieutenant Laura Bennett checked her console. She was young, barely 30, with short brown hair and a sharp mind. 6 hours, Commander. The Vraxith have confirmed they are ready to receive us. Daniel nodded. He looked around at his crew. Dr. Nathan Cole, his science officer, was studying data about the Vraxith species. Katie Morrison, his communications specialist, was practicing phrases in the Vraxith language. They were good people. They believed in peace just like he did. This is a good day, Daniel said. The Vraxith control a sector rich with minerals we need. If we can establish trade, both our peoples will benefit. The Sentinel jumped through space, covering distances that would have taken centuries with old technology. When they arrived at the edge of Vraxith territory, a fleet of alien ships met them. The ships were large and covered with weapons, but Daniel did not worry. Many species kept strong militaries. It did not mean they wanted war. A Vraxith voice came through the speakers. It was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. Human vessel. You are welcome. Follow us to our homeworld. The journey took 2 more hours. Daniel used that time to review everything humanity knew about the Vraxith. They were a proud species. They valued strength and honor. Their empire was old, spanning 800 worlds across 3 galaxies. They had conquered many species, but the report said they treated their subjects fairly. When the Sentinel entered orbit around the Vraxith homeworld, Daniel felt his breath catch. The planet was beautiful. Purple oceans reflected twin suns. Cities of black stone rose toward the sky. Ships of all sizes moved in careful patterns. Impressive, Lavra said quietly. Very, Daniel agreed. Prepare the shuttle. Let us go meet our new friends. The diplomatic team consisted of Daniel, Lavra, Nathan, Katie, and 6 security officers. They wore formal uniforms and carried no weapons. This was a gesture of trust. The Vraxith had asked for it, and Daniel had agreed without hesitation. The shuttle landed in a grand plaza. Thousands of Vraxith watched from balconies and towers. The aliens were tall, nearly 3 meters, with 4 arms and skin like dark metal. Their eyes glowed red in the afternoon light. A Vraxith wearing a golden crown stepped forward. This was Emperor Krath, ruler of the entire empire. He smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Welcome, humans, Emperor Krath said. We have heard much about your species. You spread across the stars quickly. You make friends easily. You seek peace above all things. Daniel bowed respectfully. Thank you, Emperor. We hope to add the Vraxith to our list of friends. We believe trade between our peoples will bring prosperity to both. The Emperor nodded slowly. Yes, we have studied you carefully. We know everything about humanity now. Something in his voice made Daniel uneasy, but he pushed the feeling away. He was being paranoid. This was a diplomatic mission. Everything was going well. Come, the Emperor said. We have prepared a great hall for our negotiations. Food, drink, and entertainment await. The humans followed the Emperor into a massive building. The halls were lined with statues of Vraxith warriors. Paintings showed battles and conquests. Daniel noticed that many of the defeated enemies in the artwork looked like they were begging for mercy. The great hall was filled with Raxith nobles. They watched the humans with expressions Daniel could not read. The food was strange but edible. The drinks were sweet and strong. Katie tried to make conversation with the nobles near her, but they only gave short answers. After an hour, Emperor Krath stood and raised his hand. The room fell silent. "Humans," he said, his voice echoing off the walls. "You came here seeking friendship. You came unarmed. You came trusting." Daniel stood as well. "Yes, Emperor. We believe in peace." The Emperor laughed. It was not a kind sound. Peace, such a weak word. Do you know how we built our empire? We did not ask for trade. We did not seek friendship. We took what we wanted. We crushed anyone who resisted. The doors of the great hall slammed shut. Armed Raxith soldiers poured in from side passages. They surrounded the human delegation in seconds. Daniel's heart raced, but he kept his voice calm. "Emperor, there must be some misunderstanding. We came in good faith." "There is no misunderstanding," Emperor Krath said. "We have watched humanity for decades. You have resources. You have technology. You have worlds that we want. And you are weak. You do not fight. You do not conquer. You talk and trade and smile." Lara grabbed Daniel's arm. "Commander, we need to leave." "You are not leaving," the Emperor said. "None of you will ever leave." What happened next was broadcast to every human colony across the stars. The Raxith made sure of it. They wanted humanity to see. The soldiers grabbed the human delegation. Daniel tried to protect his crew, putting himself between them and the weapons. He fought with his bare hands, an old man against armored warriors. He lasted longer than anyone expected, but in the end, they forced him to his knees. "Humanity will be our newest conquest," Emperor Krath announced to the cameras. "These are your leaders. These are your best. Watch what we do to them." One by one, the Raxith executed the human delegation. They did it slowly. They made sure the cameras captured every moment. Katie died first, then Nathan, then Lara, who cursed the Emperor with her final breath. Daniel was last. He looked directly into the camera. His face was bloody and broken, but his eyes were steady. "You have made a mistake," he said quietly. "You have no idea what you have done." Emperor Krath laughed and gave the order. Commander Daniel Harris, a man who had spent his life seeking peace, died on an alien world far from home. The broadcast ended with the Emperor's final message to humanity. "Surrender now, and we will show mercy. Resist, and we will destroy every world you have ever touched. You have 1 month to decide." Across human space, billions of people watched in silence. They saw their people murdered. They heard the Emperor's words. They felt something they had not felt in generations. Pure, absolute rage. The Raxith had studied humanity for decades. They thought they understood the species. They believed humans were soft and weak and afraid of war. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The last species that made humanity angry? They no longer exist. Part 2. The Gathering Storm. The video played on every screen across human space. It played in homes and offices. It played in schools and hospitals. It played on ships traveling between stars and on stations orbiting distant planets. Everyone saw it. Everyone watched their people die. On Earth, in the city of New Chicago, a man named Marcus Grant sat in his office. He was an admiral in the United Earth Coalition Navy. He was 60 years old, with a face marked by decades of service. He had fought in 3 border conflicts. He knew what war looked like, but he had never felt anything like this. His hand shook as he watched the video for the 5th time. He watched Commander Harris try to protect his crew. He watched young Katie Morrison die with fear in her eyes. He watched the Emperor laugh. His phone rang. It was the president of the coalition. "Marcus," the president said, "we need you. The council is meeting in 1 hour." "I know," Marcus replied. "I will be there." He ended the call and sat in silence for a long moment. Then he opened a drawer in his desk and pulled out an old photograph. It showed a young woman in a naval uniform, smiling at the camera. His daughter, Megan. She commanded a heavy cruiser on the outer rim. Marcus knew what was coming. War was coming. And his daughter would be in the middle of it. The Coalition Council met in Geneva. Every leader from every human world was there, either in person or through holographic projection. The room was packed with representatives from 43 colonies. They had come to decide humanity's response. The debate was short. It lasted exactly 17 minutes. "We must surrender," said one delegate from a small mining colony. "The Vraxith have 800 worlds. We have 43. The numbers are clear. We cannot win." Marcus stood up. The room fell silent. Everyone knew who he was. "You want to surrender," Marcus said slowly. "You want to bow to the species that murdered our people on live broadcast. You want to become slaves to an empire that treats conquest as entertainment." The delegate stammered. "Admiral, I only meant—" "I know what you meant," Marcus interrupted. "You are afraid. That is understandable. The Vraxith are powerful. They have more ships than we do. They have more soldiers than we do. By every measure, they should win." He paused and looked around the room. "But let me tell you something about humanity. We've been fighting since we first crawled out of caves. We have faced enemies that should have destroyed us. Plagues, famines, wars that killed millions. Every time, someone said we could not survive. Every time, we proved them wrong." A delegate from Mars spoke up. "What are you suggesting, Admiral?" "I am suggesting we fight," Marcus said. "Not just with ships and guns, but with everything we have. Every factory, every scientist, every citizen. We turn our entire civilization into a weapon. We show the Vraxith what happens when you make humanity angry." The vote was held immediately. It was unanimous. Every single delegate voted for war. That night, Marcus was appointed Supreme Commander of all human military forces. He had full authority to do whatever was necessary to protect humanity. He did not take the responsibility lightly. His first call was to his daughter. "Dad," Megan said when she answered, "I saw the news. I volunteered to lead the first strike." Marcus felt his heart ache. He wanted to order her to stay safe. He wanted to protect her like he had when she was a child. But he knew he could not. "I know you did," he said. "I approved your request. But promise me something. Anything. Come home alive." Megan smiled, but there was steel in her eyes. "I will. And I will bring you the Emperor's head as a trophy." Across human space, the war machine awakened. Factories that had been producing consumer goods switched to making weapons. Scientists who had been studying distant galaxies began developing new technologies for combat. Schools taught children how to survive in case of invasion. On the colony world of New Montana, a retired engineer named Ben Sullivan sat on his porch. He was an old man now, with white hair and tired hands. He had helped build the first ships that carry humanity to the stars. Now he watched his grandson, a boy of 10 named Tommy, playing in the yard. "Grandpa," Tommy called out, "why is everyone sad?" Ben did not answer right away. He was thinking about his son, Tommy's father. His son had been on the Sentinel. His son was dead. "Something bad happened," Ben finally said. "Some bad people hurt our family. What are we going to do?" Ben looked at his grandson. The boy had his father's eyes, bright and curious and full of hope. We are going to make sure it never happens again, Ben said. He went inside and called an old friend who still worked at the shipyards. I know I'm retired, Ben said, but I want to help. Tell me what you need. His friend laughed bitterly. We need everything, Ben. Every pair of hands. Every good mind. Can you still design ships? I can still design ships that will make the Vraxith wish they had never heard of Earth. Within a week, Ben was back at work. He was not alone. Across human space, millions of retired soldiers and engineers and scientists returned to duty. They were old, but they remembered how to fight. Meanwhile, in a secret facility on Luna, Dr. Lisa Park led a team of the best scientists humanity had to offer. She was a small woman with black hair and glasses, but her mind was sharper than any weapon. The president has given us unlimited resources, she told her team. Our mission is simple. We will create weapons that will ensure no species ever attacks humanity again. A young scientist raised his hand. Dr. Park, what kind of weapons are we talking about? Lisa looked at him with cold determination. The kind that will make the Vraxith extinction more than just a possibility. The kind that will make it a certainty if they do not surrender. The team worked day and night. They slept in shifts. They ate meals at their desks. They pushed the boundaries of what science could do. The Vraxith intercepted human communications during this time. Their intelligence officers reported to Emperor Kroth that humanity was preparing for war. The Emperor laughed when he heard the news. Let them prepare, he said. We have conquered species far more advanced than humans. Their little fleet will break against our armada like waves against rocks. His generals agreed. The mathematics was clear. The Vraxith had 12,000 warships. Humanity had perhaps 3,000. The war would be over in months. But the Vraxith did not understand something fundamental about humanity. They saw the numbers and assumed they knew the outcome. They did not realize that humans had never let numbers decide their fate. When humanity faced impossible odds, they did not surrender. They got creative. They got vicious. They found ways to win that no other species could imagine. The Vraxith had made a simple mistake. They assumed humanity would fight like the other species they had conquered. They were very wrong. As the weeks passed, human fleets gathered at staging points. Soldiers trained in new tactics designed specifically to counter Vraxith strategies. Scientists completed projects that would have taken decades in peacetime. Admiral Marcus Grant looked at the reports coming in from across human space. The war would be hard. Many would die. But for the first time since seeing that terrible video, he allowed himself to feel something like hope. They think they know us, he said quietly to himself. They have no idea. In 6 months, the first Vraxith invasion fleet would enter human space. They expected an easy victory. They would not find one. The last species that made humanity angry? They no longer exist. Part 3. The human way of war. 6 months had passed since the massacre. The Vraxith invasion fleet entered human space with confidence. 12,000 warships carrying 3 million soldiers moved toward the first target. The Kepler system. Grand Admiral Nex commanded the fleet. He was one of the Emperor's most trusted generals. He had conquered 47 worlds in his career. He had never lost a battle. Human forces detected, one of his officers reported. They have approximately 200 ships defending the system. Nex smiled with satisfaction. Only 200. This will be quick. Signal our arrival and demand their surrender. The Vraxith always announced themselves before battle. It was part of their code of honor. They believed in fair combat. They wanted their enemies to know death was coming. The message was sent. The Vraxith fleet arranged itself into a perfect formation and waited for the humans to respond. Nothing happened. Grand Admiral, the officer said nervously. The humans are not responding. They are also not moving. Dex frowned. Every species they had conquered had either surrendered or charged foolishly into battle. The humans were doing neither. Move forward, Dex ordered. If they will not come to us, we will go to them. The fleet advanced slowly, maintaining perfect formation. Raxith's ships were designed to fight in organized groups. Their tactics had been refined over centuries. No enemy had ever broken their lines. When they reached the middle of the system, the human ships turned and fled. Dex laughed. Cowards. They run before we even fire a shot. Chase them down. The fleet broke formation to pursue. Faster ships raced ahead while slower ones fell behind. The humans led them through an asteroid field, around a gas giant, deeper and deeper into the system. Then the first gravity mine activated. The device had been hidden in an asteroid. It created a massive gravitational pulse that crushed 3 Raxith destroyers instantly. Before Dex could react, more mines activated. Dozens of them. Hidden in asteroids. Hidden in debris. Hidden in places the Raxith had not thought to scan. Full stop, Dex screamed. All ships, full stop. But it was too late. The fleet was scattered. The mines were everywhere. Ships that tried to retreat triggered more devices. Ships that stayed still became easy targets for human missiles launched from hidden platforms. In 2 hours. The Raxith lost 800 ships without ever seeing a human vessel. Dex finally managed to regroup his remaining forces and retreat from the system. When he reported to Emperor Krath, his voice was shaking. They did not fight us, Dex said. They laid traps. They hid weapons in rocks. This is not honorable combat. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. Then we will adapt. Send more ships. Overwhelm them with numbers. But the humans had more surprises. Captain Chris Taylor commanded a squadron of 12 destroyers called the Wolfpack. His ships were small and fast, designed for speed rather than firepower. His crew was young and hungry for revenge. Chris had lost his brother on the Sentinel. The Wolfpack did not attack Raxith battle fleets. Instead, they hunted supply convoys. They struck fuel depots in the dead of night. They destroyed communication relays and hospital ships. They never fought fair. Incoming transmission from the Raxith. His communications officer reported one day. They are demanding we face them in honorable combat. Chris leaned back in his chair and smiled coldly. Tell them this. We do not care about their honor. We care about winning. The message sent the Raxith High Command into confusion. Every species they had conquered had accepted their terms of war. The humans ignored those terms entirely. When Raxith fleets adapted to expect ambush, the humans switched to direct attacks from unexpected directions. When the Raxith reinforced their supply lines, the humans attacked their colonies instead. When the Raxith tried to predict human movements, the humans did something random and illogical. There was no pattern. There was no code. There was only the relentless drive to cause as much damage as possible. On the ground, the war was even more brutal. The Raxith had captured the colony of Haven's Rest early in the invasion. They expected the human population to accept their rule and become productive slaves. They had conquered hundreds of species this way. Submission was natural. Sergeant Ryan Cooper had other plans. He was a young man from a farming family. He had never wanted to be a soldier. But when the Raxith landed and began rounding up civilians, he gathered every weapon he could find and disappeared into the hills. Within weeks, he had organized a resistance movement of 300 fighters. Farmers, teachers, doctors, children as young as 15. They all wanted to fight. The Raxith commander of Haven's Rest was named Rock. He controlled the colony with 10,000 soldiers. He expected no trouble from the weak human population. The first attack came at dawn. A convoy carrying supplies to the main Vraxith base exploded. 20 soldiers died. Vrock sent a squad to investigate. The squad never returned. Over the following months, Ryan's resistance made the Vraxith bleed for every inch of the colony. They poisoned water supplies. They sabotaged power generators. They killed soldiers in their sleep. They vanished before reinforcements could arrive. Vrock could not understand it. His species had rules about war. Civilians did not fight. Soldiers faced each other on battlefields. This was chaos. He tried to threaten the population. He executed 10 civilians for every soldier killed. It only made more people join the resistance. Why do you keep fighting? Vrock demanded of a captured human one day. You cannot win. We have more soldiers. We have better weapons. Logic says you should surrender. The prisoner, an old woman who had been a schoolteacher, looked at him with disgust. You killed our people for sport. You broadcast their deaths like entertainment. Did you really think we would ever stop fighting? Vrock had no answer. The reports reaching Emperor Krath were increasingly desperate. The Vraxith had lost more ships in 6 months of fighting humanity than in the previous 300 years combined. Their ground forces were bleeding on every occupied world. Morale was falling. They fight like animals, one general complained. They have no honor. They attack without warning. They refuse to surrender even when surrounded. Every human we capture tries to kill themselves to avoid questioning. This is not war. This is madness. The Emperor listened to these reports with growing anger. He had expected a quick conquest. Instead, he was watching his empire bleed. Send an emissary, he finally ordered. Offer the humans peace. Tell them we will return their colonies if they agree to pay tribute. The emissary traveled to the human home system under a flag of truce. Admiral Marcus Grant agreed to meet with him. The Vraxith diplomat spoke for an hour about the benefits of peace. He described how humanity could prosper under Vraxith protection. He promised that the conquest would stop if humans simply submitted. When he finished, Marcus stood up slowly. You came to our diplomats in peace, Marcus said. You killed them while the galaxy watched. You laughed while you did it. You thought we were weak. You thought we would break easily. He leaned forward, his eyes burning with cold fury. Now you come asking for peace because your soldiers are dying, because your ships are burning, because for the first time in your long history, you face an enemy that will never stop fighting. The Vraxith diplomat tried to respond, but Marcus cut him off. Go back to your emperor. Tell him our answer. And what is your answer? Marcus spoke one word. Just one. No. The diplomat fled back to Vraxith space with the message. Emperor Krath received it in stunned silence. The war would continue. And humanity was just getting started. The last species that made humanity angry? They no longer exist. Part 4. The reckoning 2 years had passed since the war began. The galaxy watched with growing amazement as humanity refused to fall. The Vraxith had taken 11 human colonies. Each one had cost them dearly. Their soldiers were exhausted. Their fleets were damaged. Their empire, which had seemed unstoppable, was bleeding from 1,000 wounds. But humanity had paid a price as well. Admiral Marcus Grant stood before a holographic display showing the current state of the war. Red dots marked occupied human worlds. Blue dots marked systems still under human control. There were too many red dots. We have lost 12 million people, his aide reported quietly. Civilian and military combined. The Vraxith have lost nearly 100 million, but they have more to spare. Marcus nodded grimly. The mathematics still favored the Vraxith. They had more ships. They had more soldiers. They could absorb losses that would destroy humanity entirely. Something had to change. That night, He received a call from Dr. Lisa Park on Luna. She looked tired. Her eyes had dark circles under them. She had barely slept in 2 years. "Admiral," she said, "we finished it." "Finished what?" "The project you authorized. We call it the Prometheus Array. It is ready for testing." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. He knew about the project, of course. He had given it unlimited resources. But hearing that it was complete felt different, heavier. What exactly does it do? He asked. Lisa hesitated before answering. "It destabilizes stars. Any star. We fire the weapon into a sun, and within hours, the star collapses into a miniature nova. Everything in that system is destroyed. Plants, ships, everything. A weapon that kills suns," Marcus whispered. "Yes, we can wipe out entire systems with a single shot. The Vraxith have 800 worlds. If we use this weapon without mercy, we can reduce that number to 0. Marcus sat in silence for a long moment. This was not the weapon of a peaceful species. This was the weapon of a species that had decided survival mattered more than morality. "Prepare a demonstration," he finally said. "We will show the Vraxith what they are facing." The test was conducted in an uninhabited Vraxith staging system. A small fleet of human ships arrived and deployed the Prometheus Array. It looked harmless, just a large satellite covered with sensors and emitters. The weapon fired. A beam of energy shot toward the system star. For several hours, nothing seemed to happen. Then the sun began to change color. It shifted from yellow to orange to a deep, angry red. The star swelled like a balloon being filled with too much air. When it exploded, the light was visible across 3 sectors. The blast destroyed everything in the system. Ships, stations, the small moon that had served as a Vraxith military base. Over 2,000 warships vaporized in an instant. The galaxy fell silent. Emperor Krath watched recordings of the explosion from his throne room. His generals stood behind him, too terrified to speak. They had never seen anything like it. "This is impossible," the Emperor finally said. "No species can build such weapons. They are bluffing." "It is not a bluff," one general said quietly. "Our scouts confirmed the destruction. That system is gone. The star itself is dead." The Emperor's hands trembled. For the first time in his long life, he felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. He broadcast a message to all human space. His voice shook with rage, but beneath the rage was desperation. "Humans," he said, "you have created a weapon of pure evil. You threaten to destroy suns. You would kill billions to win this war. Know this. If you use that weapon again, we will destroy every human world in retaliation. We have more ships than you. We will burn your colonies before you can stop us." The message reached Earth within hours. The Coalition Council gathered to debate their response. The debate was fierce. "We cannot use this weapon," one delegate argued. "It is monstrous. We would be killing innocent civilians. We would become no better than them." Another delegate stood up angrily. "They killed our diplomats for sport. They have murdered millions of our people on occupied worlds. They laugh at our suffering. How can you speak of mercy?" The arguments went back and forth for 3 days. Some wanted to use the weapon immediately. Others wanted to negotiate. The division threatened to tear the coalition apart. Admiral Megan Grant finally asked to speak. She had been promoted to admiral after her father's death 6 months earlier. Marcus had died defending Earth's orbital stations during a surprise attack. He had saved millions of lives with his sacrifice. Megan now carried the weight of his legacy. "My father believed in humanity," she said. "He believed we were better than our enemies. He fought this war to protect innocent lives, not to destroy them." She paused, looking around the room. But my father also believed in justice. The Vraxith attacked us without reason. They murdered our people for entertainment. They have shown no mercy to any species they have conquered. If we do not stop them now, they will continue their conquests forever. What are you suggesting? A delegate asked. I suggest we give them a choice. Surrender now and face judgment for their crimes, or continue fighting and face extinction. We will not use the weapon on civilian worlds unless they force us to, but we will use it on their military targets. We will use it on their fleets. We will make the cost of this war so high that they have no choice but to submit. The vote was held. It was close, but in the end, the coalition agreed to Megan's proposal. A message was sent to the Vraxith Empire. You have 30 days to surrender. Your emperor will face trial for war crimes. Your military will be dismantled. Your conquered species will be freed. If you refuse, we will use our weapon on every military target in your empire. We will not stop until your ability to make war is completely destroyed. Emperor Krath's response came within hours. He rejected the terms with contempt. He ordered his remaining fleets to launch an all-out attack on human space. They are bluffing, he told his generals. They are too weak to use such a weapon. Attack now, and we will crush them before they can respond. The Vraxith fleet jumped toward Earth. 15,000 ships, everything they had left, in one massive assault. They would destroy humanity's homeworld and end the war in a single stroke, but Admiral Megan Grant was waiting for them. The human fleet was smaller, only 4,000 ships. But among those ships were 6 vessels carrying the Prometheus array. When the Vraxith emerged from hyperspace, they found themselves in a trap. Human ships surrounded them on all sides. And at the center of the formation were the weapon platforms. Megan broadcast one final message to the Vraxith fleet. Your emperor has refused our terms. He has sent you here to die. This is your last chance. Any ship that surrenders now will be spared. Any ship that continues to fight will be destroyed. You have 5 minutes to decide. 15,000 ships hesitated. For a long moment, the battle hung in the balance. Then the first Vraxith ships began to surrender. One at first, then dozens, then hundreds. Their captains knew what the human weapon could do. They had seen the recordings. They did not want to die for an emperor who sat safe on his throne, but not all surrendered. Nearly 10,000 ships remained loyal to the emperor. They charged toward the human fleet with weapons blazing. Megan gave the order. The Prometheus arrays fired. Not at the Vraxith ships, but at a small star nearby. The star had been carefully chosen for this moment. When it exploded, the blast swept through the Vraxith formation. Ships designed to survive normal weapons were torn apart like paper in a hurricane. The light was so bright that sensors across the galaxy were blinded for hours. When the light faded, the loyal Vraxith fleet was gone. 10,000 ships, 3 million soldiers. Vaporized in an instant. The war had reached its turning point. Now it was time for humanity to finish what the Vraxith had started. The last species that made humanity angry? They no longer exist. Part 5. They no longer exist. The final campaign lasted 18 months. Human fleets moved through Vraxith space with the steady determination of a rising tide. Every system they entered received the same offer. Surrender and be spared. Fight and be destroyed. Most systems chose wisely. The Vraxith Empire crumbled from the edges inward. Worlds that had been conquered centuries ago rose up against their masters. Species that had been enslaved for generations saw their chance at freedom and took it. The empire that had seemed invincible was falling apart. Admiral Megan Grant led the main fleet toward the Vraxith throne world. Her flag captain, a young officer named Alex Turner, stood beside her on the bridge. Alex had personal reasons to be here. His grandfather had died on the Sentinel. His mother had died defending Haven's Rest. He carried their memories with him every day. "How long until we reach the throne world?" Megan asked. 6 hours, Admiral. Our scouts report the Emperor has gathered his remaining loyal forces there. Approximately 2,000 ships and 5 million soldiers. Megan nodded slowly. He's making his last stand. He knows there is nowhere left to run. Do we offer surrender terms? We offer them to everyone. Even monsters deserve one final chance to face justice rather than death. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace above the Vraxith throne world. The planet was beautiful, just as Commander Harris had described in his final reports. Purple oceans, twin suns, cities of black stone rising toward the sky. But now those cities were burning. Civil war had broken out on the surface. Vraxith, loyal to the Emperor, fought against Vraxith, who wanted peace. The Empire was destroying itself. Megan broadcast her surrender terms to the entire planet. She spoke calmly and clearly, making sure everyone could understand. People of the Vraxith, your Emperor led you into a war you could not win. Millions of your soldiers have died for his pride. Your empire has collapsed. Your conquered worlds have freed themselves. You have nothing left. She paused, letting the words sink in. I am offering you one final chance. Lay down your weapons. Surrender your emperor to face justice. Accept responsibility for the crimes your species has committed. If you do this, we will show mercy. We will help you rebuild. We will not destroy your world. The response came from Emperor Kroth himself. He appeared on the view screen, still wearing his golden crown. But he looked old now, tired. The confidence that had filled him when he murdered the human diplomats was gone. You think you have won, he said. You think you can destroy us, and the galaxy will praise you. But remember this, humans. You have used weapons that kill suns. You have shown that you will destroy entire systems to achieve your goals. The galaxy will never trust you again. Megan leaned forward. You started this war. You killed our people for entertainment. You laughed while doing it. Everything that has happened since is your responsibility, not ours. I will never surrender to animals like you, the Emperor spat. Come and take my throne if you can. The transmission ended. Alex looked at his admiral with a question in his eyes. We proceed, Megan said. Prepare the ground assault. The battle for the Vraxith throne world lasted 3 weeks. Human soldiers fought through the streets of alien cities. They advanced building by building, room by room. The Emperor's loyalists fought with desperate ferocity, but they were outnumbered, and OUTMATCHED. Alex Turner led one of the assault teams into the Imperial Palace. His squad moved through halls that had once been filled with celebrating nobles. Now they were filled with bodies and broken statues. The final confrontation came in the throne room itself. Emperor Krath sat on his throne, surrounded by his last 50 guards. They were the elite of his military, warriors who had never lost a fight. They lost this one. The battle was brutal but brief. Human soldiers had been training for this moment for 2 years. They knew every Vraxith combat tactic. They had designed weapons specifically to counter them. The guards fell one by one until only the Emperor remained. Alex approached the throne slowly. His rifle was aimed at the Emperor's head. It is over, he said. You are coming with us to face trial. The Emperor laughed bitterly. Trial? As if your species has any right to judge mine. We have conquered galaxies while you were still fighting each other with sticks and stones. You also murdered innocent people on live broadcast, Alex replied. That was a mistake. I will never submit to human judgment. Never. The Emperor reached for a weapon hidden in his throne. Alex fired once. The Emperor slumped back, a burn mark on his chest where his heart had been. For a moment, the throne room was silent. "It is done," Alex said into his communicator. "The Emperor is dead." Megan's voice came back, tired but satisfied. "Well done, Commander. The war is over." But the work was just beginning. In the following years, humanity faced the enormous task of rebuilding. Their own colonies needed repair. The former Vraxith worlds needed governance. The species that had been enslaved needed help finding their place in a new galaxy. Not all Vraxith died in the war. Approximately 12% of their population survived. Most were civilians who had opposed the Emperor's policies. Some were soldiers who had surrendered early. The coalition debated what to do with them for months. Some wanted revenge. They argued that every Vraxith should be punished for what their species had done. But cooler heads prevailed. "We fought this war to stop a cycle of conquest," Megan argued at the final debate. "If we destroy the survivors, we become what we fought against. We must be better than that." The surviving Vraxith were scattered across refugee settlements. Their empire was gone. Their culture of conquest was forbidden. Their children were taught new values of cooperation rather than domination. Some Vraxith adapted. They learned to live alongside the species they had once ruled. They contributed to the new order rather than fighting against it. Others could not accept their fall. They died bitter and broken, unable to understand how their invincible empire had been destroyed by a species they had dismissed as weak. 10 years after the war ended, a memorial was built on the former Vraxith throne world. It was a simple structure, a wall covered with names. The names of every human who had died in the war, from Commander Harris to the last soldier killed in the final battle. Ben Sullivan came to visit the memorial with his grandson Tommy, who was now a young man serving in the peacekeeping corps. They walked along the wall until they found the name they were looking for: Tommy's father. "Ben's son. He would be proud of you," Ben said quietly. "I hope so," Tommy replied. "I try to be the man he would have wanted me to be." They stood in silence for a long time. 2 generations united by loss and memory. Meanwhile, Admiral Megan Grant had become one of the most famous humans in the galaxy. She had been offered political positions, business deals, and countless honors. She had refused them all. Instead, she chose to remain in the fleet. She commanded the patrol that watched the borders of human space, ensuring no threat would ever catch humanity unprepared again. One evening, she stood alone on the observation deck of her flagship. She looked out at the stars, thinking about everything that had happened. A young officer approached her hesitantly. "Admiral, you have a message from the Galactic Council." Megan took the datapad and read the message. It was a formal declaration from the 17 allied species humanity had befriended before the war. They had voted unanimously to recognize humanity as a permanent member of the Galactic Council with full voting rights. "We have watched humanity with great interest," the message read. "You saw peace when you first came to the stars. When peace was denied, you proved capable of war beyond our imagination. The galaxy has learned that humanity is not to be underestimated. We welcome you as equals and hope to never be your enemies." Megan smiled softly. She looked back at the stars, thinking about her father, about Commander Harris, about all the people who had died to bring humanity to this moment. "We did it," she whispered. "We survived." Across the galaxy, the story of the Vraxith became a legend. Parents told their children about the species that had attacked humanity and paid the ultimate price. Military academies studied the war as an example of what happened when superior numbers faced superior determination. And in quiet corners of 1,000 worlds, beings of 100 different species remembered one simple truth: the last species that made humanity angry no longer exists. No one wanted to be next. The end.